With the FNaF Security Breach Ruin DLC releasing this month on July 25th, only 9 days away, we don't have much time left before we find out what happens within it. However, since it's not out just yet, it is still fun to speculate what might happen in the DLC, and the Tales from the Pizzaplex story Under Construction from the first book may have provided us with some possible insight into what might happen in that Ruin DLC. Now, this video very well may be either proven right, or may go completely outdated within the next few weeks, but I just wanted to make a video about it, and while I'm at it, why not reread Under Construction and note any interesting details I find. A lot of you may know that I've done this with other Fazbear Frights, and also Frailty from Tales from the Pizzaplex, and today I'll be doing it with the third Tales story, Under Construction. I originally planned to do a video like this on Lally's Game first, but because I got Tiger Rock early, I had to do my videos on those, and then I had to delay the Lally's Game video because I wanted to make this video before Ruin released, as well as do a live stream replaying Security Breach in anticipation for Ruin. And since we didn't know yet when Ruin would release, I wanted to make this video as soon as possible. I don't know yet whether the Lally's Game video and the other theories I have planned surrounding it will be before or after Ruin. It completely depends on whether or not I'm able to stick to my current content schedule. Hopefully I'll be able to get them out before Ruin though. But I just decided to make this video first just in case. That video is a part 2 and a 5-part long extended theory, so some may be out after and some before, or all will be out before or after, who knows. Anyways, if you're not sure how these videos work, what I'll be doing is talking about all the interesting details I notice about this story, and once I'm done explaining all of those, I will discuss the theory that I have about this story, which, as I just said, will connect to the Ruin DLC. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. At the beginning of the story, Maya had never seen the Pizzaplex before, and she and her friends talk about how they expected it to be overhyped, which implies that it's really popular right now, and that seems to imply that the story takes place very early in the Pizzaplex era. There's a few details in this story that kind of work in tandem with Cleithrophobia, and if and when I probably end up doing a video like this for Cleithrophobia, I'll probably mention these again, but while we're on Under Construction, it's worth mentioning that Cleithrophobia further confirms that this story is at the beginning of the Pizzaplex era, as in Cleithrophobia we see the AR booth destroyed as the aftermath of this story, and then the rest of Cleithrophobia takes place 5 months prior, before the Pizzaplex opens. Number 2. Speaking of Cleithrophobia, the Under Construction AR booth has blown up, or at least is smoking, which is why Maya ends up trapped inside it. There's a very specific moment when Maya switches from feeling like she's in a realistic AR booth to feeling like it's actually all real. This is because while she was inside the AR headset, since it wasn't finished, it blew up, killing her, which is why it was smoking in Cleithrophobia, and then her spirit ended up possessing the headset. That's how she ended up trapped inside it. I always kind of thought that she died inside it when the story first came out, but it's nice that Cleithrophobia provided insight into that. Number 3. The early pages of Under Construction bring up a very interesting topic, that being quantum immortality, which basically states that our consciousness can never experience not existing, meaning even after we die, our consciousness has to exist somewhere, possibly within another universe. The plot of the story actually follows this, where Maya dies, but since she had to exist somewhere, her spirit possessed the AR booth, which is essentially, from her perspective, another plane of existence, and that's also why she can't die within the AR booth at the end of the story, which I'll talk more about later. Number 4. When Jackson was trying to convince Maya to celebrate her 16th birthday at the Pizzaplex, he had explained that there were VR and AR booths, and they actually used the VR booth at a point in the story before they used the AR booth. However, in Tiger Rock, AR and VR are used interchangeably, so it seems that after Under Construction got the AR booth blown up, that the AR booths were shut down, and combined with the VR booth, which explains why both of them are in the same booth in Tiger Rock. Or could have just been a mistake in Tiger Rock, who knows, whatever, just wanted to mention that. Number 5. Also pretty early in the story, it's mentioned that the Pizzaplex has a blacklight arena, which was a cave for little kids with glowing climbing bars, slides, foam blocks, and a ball pit. This is the same blacklight arena that is talked about in Lally's Game, meaning that this is the same Pizzaplex, which isn't exactly surprising, but when the book first came out, it was a bit of a debate that the Pizzaplex in Lally's Game was the mega one, but it is. There's also the mention of a roleplay area, which is definitely referring to the Urban Legends Roleplayers Auditorium from Pressure, which is also mentioned in Cleithrophobia, which is obviously closely connected with this story. Number 6. Maya's birthday happens in May, meaning that the Pizzaplex opens in May at the latest. Since Cleithrophobia is 5 months before Under Construction and takes place before the Pizzaplex opens, that means that Cleithrophobia is in December. Because of the Mimic being in 1984 to ensure the Mimic can witness the missing children incident, and because it's 40 years before the storyteller, that means that the Pizzaplex opened in 2024. This makes it just slightly unbelievable that the Pizzaplex was built in probably like 2 or 3 months since FNaF 6's Spookfest poster implies that it takes place around October, and you could say that this contradicts the Tales stories being in the games, but while it is pretty unbelievable, it is sort of possible that the Pizzaplex was just built that fast if there were just a lot of construction workers who were all really efficient, or it could just be a small oversight, but those are just my thoughts. Number 7. While this is something pretty obvious when you're reading the story, it's something I wanted to take note of, because it is pretty cool build-up. Throughout the story, the words under construction appeared randomly throughout Maya's simulated life, obviously alluding to the under construction AR booth, but it also happens in areas that don't make sense for the phrase. For example, when researching causes of cancer, Elena, Maya's sister, reaches a site that says page under construction, which doesn't make sense for a page on the internet. It's a cool way of trying to build up to the reveal that she's still in the AR booth, showing the phrase that is connected to the AR booth in ways that don't make sense to try and point us in the right direction. Number 8. About 6 months ago, I made a video going over how I think that the Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex stories run in parallel, not necessarily preventing them from being within the same universe, but also not proving that they are, instead simply showing similarities between them. In that video, I mentioned how Fazbear Frights had a constant theme of body snatching, swapping, or controlling in stories like To Be Beautiful, Lonely Freddy, Room for One More, Dance With Me, In the Flesh, He Told Me Everything, Gumdrop Angel, The Puppet Carver, Sea Bonnies, Prankster, and Kids at Play. There was quite a lot, but interestingly enough, Tales from the Pizzaplex has a similar trend that has appeared in at least one story of each book, but it's not body snatching. Tales from the Pizzaplex has an ongoing trend of fake or warped realities. The first of these appeared in this story, Under Construction. In this story, Maya goes into the currently under construction AR booth at the Pizzaplex and puts on the AR headset, causing it to explode, which kills her like we talked about before. The story takes place in the fake reality created by the AR headset. The reason I'm bringing this up here is because this is not the only story with the fake or altered reality trend. The story Help Wanted has Steve Snodgrass manipulated into thinking that he had memory loss, and Fazbear Entertainment created for him a simulated life, the perfect life that he always wanted, using illusion discs and robots and forcing him to remain within a snowed-in home, his own fake reality. Then, there's Somnophobia, where Sam is obsessed with the dream sphere, which essentially brings him into another realm, and if he doesn't get out safely and uses it for too long, he gets trapped within it, another fake reality. This next one is debatable if you want to count it. I probably wouldn't, but I just wanted to mention it. But you could potentially count Pressure as well, since it takes place in a roleplay area where people are pretending to be characters that they're not, and Luca actually gets trapped in it and dies in the Springtrap costume, though that connection is a bit loose. Animatronic Apocalypse has a similar concept, but instead of a fake reality, it's an altered, warped reality where everyone's minds are manipulated into believing in the animatronic apocalypse. And the story actually is very similar to Bendy and the Ink Machine as well, when you take a step back, which makes me appreciate it a lot more. But since it's similar to Bendy and the Ink Machine, which is like a fake reality, then that also kind of proves the point. I mean, I don't really know if that like connection between this story and Bendy and the Ink Machine was intentional, but like, I feel like it was, because there's like a lot of similarities with like the worshipping of the Fazbear, Freddy Fazbear, and there's the guy that's like leading a cult wearing a Freddy Fazbear mask like Sammy Lawrence, and then that guy also has black liquid as blood, which is kind of like the ink in Bendy and the Ink Machine. I'm kind of going off script here, so if you can't tell, but whatever. Anyway, back to the script part. There's also Drowning, which is about a character getting trapped within a VR water park, a similar concept to Under Construction, and spoiler alert for the newest Tales from the Pizzaplex book, but there's also Tiger Rock, which is essentially the same as Drowning, but also even more similar to Under Construction, in that the main character doesn't realize that they're in a fake reality until around the end of the story. I just wanted to bring this up because it's very interesting that this ongoing thread exists, and I thought mentioning it here is fitting since it started with Under Construction. However, it just so happens that Tales from the Pizzaplex is not the first time that this concept has been explored. Number 9. In Into the Pit, the first book of Fazbear Frights, we have Oswald who goes into the ball pit, which I should also mention is off limits, just like the AR booth in Under Construction. He goes inside and he's brought into the recreation of a memory of some other person. The ball pit and the AR booth both create fake realities based on the real world, but with some warped elements. And it's also interesting that both stories are in the first book of their respective series. It's as I said earlier, Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex run in parallel with each other, and this is only one example of many. Number 10. Throughout the story, Maya, outside of the asshole Mr. Vance, which is odd, is the only person in the world who doesn't end up getting cancer. cancer essentially works as a screw-up in the cell duplication process, and the cells always have measures to destroy these cells, but sometimes they slip through and duplicate, which is what causes tumors and cancer. As more and more people die throughout the story, the jelly creatures duplicate more and more, which I feel is meant to represent how cancer cells multiply and also be a sort of metaphor for the amount of people that are dying from the cancer, with the regular people essentially being the normal cells and the jelly blobs being the cancer cells, which are replacing the normal ones. Except of course Maya, which is very interesting. Hey everyone, Evan from editing here. I just kind of thought of something really random while I was editing the video. This isn't scripted or anything, I just thought of it just now. I was talking about how I think that the jelly blobs could represent like the cancer cells multiplying and stuff, and represent replacing regular cells with cancer cells, basically with the AR booth kind of being like a body that's inflicted with cancer, right? So that's the kind of idea that I was talking about there, and I still think that that could very well be the case. But an idea that I had was that since this story takes place so early in the Pizzaplex's runtime, it could be that the AR headset was still attached to all the Pizzaplex software and stuff. Even after like it shut down and it was never used again, it could still be connected to the Pizzaplex software and stuff, meaning that that the storyteller's tree, when it gets added, could also still be connected to the AR headset. In which case, when the storyteller's tree shoots the mimic virus into the into the AR headset, that's what creates the jelly blobs. Like it could be a representation of the cancer, like metaphorically, but literally speaking, it could just be the storyteller's tree infecting it with the mimic virus. That's just something I randomly thought of, so I just wanted to bring that up for you guys. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and enjoy the rest of the video. Bye-bye. Throughout the story, it's mentioned a couple times, but the ending of the story makes it abundantly clear. As she's engulfed in these jelly creatures, she expects death to come, but it doesn't. Maya is unable to die. Now, who else do we know who can't die? William Afton. Whether you believe Burntrap to still contain Afton's spirit, or whether or not you believe that Afton is still around in the Pizzaplex era, there's no denying that Afton has lived on in some form or another. You could believe his spirit is still around, or you can just say he's kind of lived on with the mimic replicating his actions and expanding on them in its own unique way, or you could say both at the same time. But this is what leads me into my theory. Maya in this story is a sort of placeholder for Afton, and this theory is something I've talked about in a couple videos in the past. I believe that the Blob and Afton will combine in Ruin to make the game version of the Afton amalgamation, and there's evidence for this that I talked about in a Blob dedicated video from a while ago. Something weird about the Blob is that in the model there are 3 separate Bonnie arms, but not only that, all 3 of them are Bonnie's left arm. These belong to 3 different Bonnies, meaning that the animatronics Bonnie, Chica, and Mangle in the Blob, and maybe even the Funtime Freddy and Baby animatronics, aren't actually the originals, but they are actually just FNaF AR Fazbear Funtime Service animatronics. The interesting thing about the FNaF AR animatronics, though, is that they are controlled by Glitchtrap. So if the Blob has Glitchtrap infected things in them, does that mean that maybe Burntrap, whether literally or metaphorically William Afton, could end up taking back control of these items, and therefore taking control of the Blob itself after the Blob attacks him? We see the Afton amalgamation in Fazbear Frights, so why not in the games? It would make a lot of sense if Fazbear Frights really was setting the amalgamation up to be in the games in the future. In Princess Quest, we see Glitchtrap, but not Glitchtrap as we know him. This Glitchtrap has random squiggles all over the place, and eyes all over its body, not only on its face, similar to the Afton amalgamation in Epilogue 7 of Fazbear Frights. But if you actually compare the Blob and Princess Quest Glitchtrap, almost every single thing lines up. I made an image a long time ago comparing the two of them, and so much added up. But here's the real nail in the coffin. At the end of Princess Quest 1, this amalgamation reaches out and grabs Cassidy with black tentacles, just like the Blob has. What's even more interesting, though, is that this Princess Quest Glitchtrap matches the design of the glitchy rabbit at the end of the Ruin trailer. Not only are both rabbits and glitchy, but both have tear tracks. These two are the same character. Princess Quest Glitchtrap, aka the Afton amalgamation, will be in the Ruin DLC. But what does this have to do with Under Construction? Well, after her entire family is killed, the jelly creatures flood into Maya's house, and she tries to escape to her garage, forgetting that she hadn't closed it before, and it was now full of jelly creatures. And might I add, while the word isn't actually used in the story, you could call these jelly creatures blobs. The jelly blobs cling to Maya, and strangely, even though she can't breathe or anything, she is still alive. She has no idea how she is still alive, and what's even weirder is that when she and the jelly blobs literally merged together, it feels as if they incorporated her into them, as if they had been seeking her out, as if she completed them. This, to me, all seems to represent the idea of Burntrap and the Blob combining. While in the story Maya doesn't die because she's already dead and trapped in a simulation, it could be a representation of William Afton still being alive after all this time. Again, whether literally or metaphorically. As I mentioned before, some of the animatronics in the Blob contain fragmented pieces of Glitchtrap, so if Burntrap and the Blob combine together, it would be like the pieces of Glitchtrap are being reunited, like Burntrap completes the Blob, just like Maya completes the Jelly Blobs. So basically, blobs combine together with someone who cannot die and who completes those blobs, which to me really seems to tie together with Burntrap and the Blob combining together to become the Afton amalgamation in the Ruin DLC. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Burntrap and the Blob will combine in Ruin? Do you think we'll be getting an iteration of the Afton amalgamation in the DLC? Let me know in the comments, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and stay tuned for my next theory video, which will be all about whether or not Afton actually is still around. But that's all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!